All right, I think we can get started. Welcome, class of 2021. My name is Jeff Gallant, Associate Director of Undergraduate Admission at Boston College, and this is a conversation with graduates of Boston College's class of 2020. And we've been featuring alumni as part of our programming all month, but we in particular have been really looking forward to talking to this group today because for one, we didn't get the chance to give them a proper goodbye from campus. So it's so nice to see them today. And if there's any group of people that can empathize with what you've gone through the last year plus, it's these people. And so we're just so excited to have them back to share their thoughts and reflection with you. It definitely will be a very enjoyable hour or so because they appreciate, they're not too far removed from their own college searches themselves. And they realize how difficult this process can be under normal ideal conditions. And when you have to learn about institutions virtually, it's even more difficult. So I think their empathy and their appreciation will come through today with some valuable words. And congratulations to the students that have already selected Boston College. We're really excited for you to join our community. And we know we have students on the line that are facing a very challenging decision given the quality of the students that we were able to admit this year. You obviously have some terrific options. Before I turn it over to Bridget to start introductions, I just want to remind you that you can ask questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. But we're excited to talk with this group, and maybe I'll hand it over to Bridget now.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Just for starters, my name is Bridget. I graduated class of 2020. I'm from upstate New York, Rochester, and I majored in sociology and biology in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. And what I was involved with at Boston College was the student admissions program. So doing the tours and panels, it was one of my favorite parts about BC. And also I was really involved in our dance marathon where we spent the year raising awareness and money for Boston Children's Hospital. And what I'm doing now, I'm in medical school now at Boston University School of Medicine. So I'm so sorry I did trade teams, but BC does not have a med school. So I think it's a little bit okay.
Hi guys, my name is Jaime Martinez. I am from Brownsville, Texas, and I also graduated this past May, class of 2020. I majored in political science and a minor in philosophy and Latin American studies in the School of Art and Sciences. A highlight of my time thinking back now would have been engaging in the core curriculum. These are the classes that we take, and for most students, you develop new interests and end up picking up any of those subjects for a double major or minor. That happened to me with philosophy. I had never taken any philosophy class. I took the core, fell in love with philosophy, and turned that into one of my minors. So that's definitely a highlight thinking back to all those classes and opportunities that I had with different professors and classmates. And right now, I am a client solutions associate at GLG, where I essentially recruit for various experts and companies around the world. So definitely quite the change from this past May to this May, but nonetheless a crazy ride, enjoyable, and always looking back to my years at BC.
Hi everyone, I am Jenny. I was born and raised in China. I went to high school in Atlanta, Georgia, and obviously I went to Boston College and graduated in 2020. I studied finance and information systems in the Carroll School of Management, and it honestly, it's just been like this time of the year, I really miss Boston Marathon, like during my time at BC, especially back then. My friends and I, we were running this like bike rental club. It still exists. So if you are on BC campus, check it out. It's free bikes, y'all. You just have to take a safety training and then you get to rent bikes for free. So we did the bike marathon, which is the night before the actual marathon when the roads are already like cleared up. My friend and I, we just like biked the whole route. It's definitely quite a bike, but just like such a fun time. Like you get your speaker and you're jamming with the music and you're like freezing in the Boston April cold nights, but it's just such a fun time. Yeah, I honestly miss so many things about BC, but that might be my favorite memory.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiley. I'm originally from Braintree, Massachusetts, and I studied finance and economics in the Carroll School of Management. One of my favorite things that I was involved in at BC was BC's Special Olympics team. We have an incredible group of athletes who live with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and they all come to our campus usually once a week for a practice session, and then we go all over Massachusetts and compete in statewide tournaments. So it was an incredibly rewarding experience just getting to work with these athletes. And also it's how I met a bunch of my closest friends. So it was all in all a great experience. Now I currently live in Boston and I work at Goldman Sachs as a financial analyst.
Hi, everyone. So nice to join you all today. My name is Sophie Banchoff, and I'm originally from Arlington, Virginia. Now I'm living in Philadelphia, but originally from DC area. And at BC, I majored in applied psychology and human development within our Lynch School of Education and Human Development. And then I minored in environmental studies in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and as well as management and leadership in our Carroll School of Management. So definitely tried a lot of different things while at BC. And currently, what I do is I am a recruiter for an executive search firm. So I help place chief people officers and basically anyone within the human resource function. And that kind of relates back to one of my favorite classes I took at BC. So in my senior year, I took a class called Applied Psychology Practicum. And it was a class with just 4 people and a professor. And it was fabulous because it really gave us the opportunity to do an internship during the semester. So I actually did an internship within our HR department at BC, and I really found out that that was an area I really loved. And so trying to figure out what to do after college, I definitely had a deep love for it. So I kind of pursued recruiting and then focusing within HR as a recruiter.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vinnie Pelicone. I am an alum of Boston College, graduated in May 2020. I'm originally from the Hudson Valley, New York, in New City. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts in Italian and a minor in French. If I had to think about my favorite memory at BC, I will actually use a perfectly timed backdrop that I've installed today. This is Gasson Hall, for those of you not familiar. And I took this photo in May of 2019, which would have been my junior year, and that was during what we call Arts Fest on campus. It's an opportunity where all the different performing visual arts groups would have had the opportunity to showcase their talents in a variety of different collages, pop-up informal concerts, a bunch of tents scattered around everywhere. I was part of the Liturgy Arts Group. The Liturgy Arts Group is a organization that's based out of campus ministry, where through with students, our love of music and ministry, we would be able to serve, claim the word in the masses that we would have on campus, either during Sunday evenings most of the time, also some of the larger events that we would have on campus. And one of my favorite parts of being part of that group was being able to participate in Arts Fest, just because it felt like we really had this opportunity to showcase our love and profession for what we were doing in the group. So it's just a really great experience for me. Currently, I am a full-time master's student in the higher education program at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education. I will actually be graduating in about 20 days. It was a 1-year accelerated master's, so I'm very much empathetic to all of you as you are finishing your class of 2021 in high school. I'm rounding the circuit again, so just happy to impart any experiences or have a conversation with all of you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Vinny. Thanks, everybody. You have such a great range of perspectives here that I'm going to stay out of the way here. So I continue. Audience, please feel free to ask questions on the Q&A feature. The first question that I have is, can you reflect on the past year? I think it's difficult transitioning from college life to professional life or graduate school, and you did it abruptly and during a pandemic. So can you share a little bit about your life over the past year?
I can start. I technically did all of it. So also I realized I didn't say what I'm doing now. So I'm living in San Francisco, which means I actually moved across country during the middle of the pandemic and started a new job. So I'm a consultant at Deloitte, working on interesting projects. I guess an easier way to explain is that I am in the risk management, and right now I have a major social media company as my client, and we work on their integrity, which in all just means that in my little world, I'm trying to do everything I can to protect user privacy at a place where sometimes it's framed as the evil empire in the in the news that I'm not going to say the name, but so that's what I'm doing. So I also applied to early MBA program during the pandemic as well. So I'll actually be coming back to Boston in the fall of 2022 to go to MBA at MIT. So yeah, I moved, I applied to grad school and started a new job in the past year. So that was quite a lot. But I guess one thing that made me really, one thing I thought about a lot is actually, I guess I didn't realize how big of an impact BC had on me. Like a lot of I'm sure we all had a lot of more time to spend with family and also with ourselves and really reflecting on, at least for me, how my college experience was and how that aligned me of like what I want to do in the future. And I think a lot of those things I thought about, or just like the conversations I had with my friends at BC, truly made me feel if it wasn't that like so many retreat at Boston College or like those service opportunities, I wouldn't be thinking about those things and we wouldn't be having that kind of conversation. So that's, yeah, mostly how my past year has been.
I think in terms of the transition or trying to adjust, going back home, finishing up the semester at home, and then trying to find jobs, I think what really kept me motivated and made this whole process easier was the professors and students' effort to keep this sense of like normalcy throughout this time. So trying to adapt these Zoom classes and make it as normal as possible, having those breakout rooms, having professors understand that there was no opportunity for a ceremony of graduation and still hosting like a virtual like happy hour or let's chat post grad and try to bring this again sense of normalcy into our lives, and doing that both as part of the school and then with friends outside of school hours per se. So that was definitely something that I can look back to and think really did help me, and something that I appreciated, knowing how much uncertainty there was during that period and how this helped us cope with that transition.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Jenny. The questions are coming in, so why don't I get to them? Someone asked, what is one of the most important things you did at BC that helped you in your post-grad life?
I think for me, one of the things looking back that I really loved and has helped me a lot is just like taking opportunities to be a leader on campus. And that can take a lot of forms. For me personally, I was really involved in For Boston, which is a service group we have on campus where you do 4 hours of service every week and you have weekly reflections with the same group that you go to service with. So I personally did tutoring for 4 years at this amazing organization, EV Kids. And then my senior year, I decided to lead a small group. So I was leading the weekly reflection sessions. And for me, that definitely pushed me. I'm definitely more of an introvert than extrovert, but like looking back, I'm so glad I did, because now every day I'm on the phone with a lot of individuals who are pretty impressive. And so it can be pretty nerve-wracking, not gonna lie, but I think having the opportunity to have experience while at BC where I was really pushed, like being a leader for a club and organization really helped me in the post-grad life.
I'll jump in for a bit, for a minute. I see a bunch of questions also about like pre-med too, so I'll loop them all in. The short answer is I think that what I did at Boston College was the perfect preparation for medical school, to be honest. A couple things like go into that, like Sophie was saying, really just taking advantage of the leadership opportunities in any capacity. I think the biggest thing, not only for medical school, but anything post-grad, is to really find yourself and find your passions in undergrad. So there's no quote unquote like right things to do, like thinking specifically for medical school. I know a lot of people like research might come to mind, or getting like hospital experience and really diving into the really sciencey things, which is really great. If that's what you're interested in, really go for it. But also like you're a person and the people you're taking care of are whole people too. We like to say character, personalis at Boston College, care of the whole person, and you have to nurture that too. So if you're really focused on the science related activities, really pursue those. Depth is really important, I think, in building a strong resume and preparing yourself for your future career. For me, I really wasn't that interested in scientific research. So I instead went really into the service and the advocacy aspect of life at BC. So I talked about dance marathon, really pursuing leadership activities, building the ability to talk. Like Sophie was saying, you get to adulthood and all of a sudden you're talking with all these like people generations older than you, and it's really important to be able to have those communication skills. Any knowledge you need for a job or for school, you'll learn it then, but it's those interpersonal skills I think really stand out in people who went to liberal arts colleges that I've noticed in my school now. People who went to a liberal arts school, or there's a couple of BC grads in my class, I can really pick them out beyond the people who maybe didn't push themselves in those ways. So I think that's really the most important thing, is to build like yourself as a person and pursue your end, whatever that may be, and that will shine through as like your true authentic self for your post-grad career.
I'll quickly jump in and add one more thing, because I think the best thing that you can do is explore. And that is in terms of interest, academics. Most, if not all of you, know what you're going to study or have an idea, but in the back of your head, you have different interests that do not align with what you're going to study. My freshman year, I was a teacher during the summer. Sophomore year, I was in the halls of Congress working with senators and congressmen. And then last year, I sat on campus doing tours and panels like this. So it's three different things. And although I did have my major, you do want to explore with different interests that you have in person, whether you can do an internship over the summer, an internship during the school year, join different clubs, because after 4 years, you'll have a pretty good sense of what your holistic interests are. And when you start doing that job search and you apply for different jobs and try to determine what to do next, where to go, having experienced those things, I could have been, yes, I'm political science, but I did not like my time in Congress. So I know politics, or that sort of politics, it's not something I want to pursue after my time at BC. So definitely explore in terms of academics, social life, everything.
Mark, I think you were about to say something. There's been a couple questions about your experience with internships, and Jaime touched upon, I think Sophie said something earlier. Would you like to get us started and just maybe a few of you share your experience with internships at Boston College?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think internships are a really important kind of extension of what you learn in the classroom. And between our Career Center and our alumni network, I think that people find them generally pretty easy to come by. We have great recruiting events on campus, whether it's a really large career fair or even just company-specific events that may happen on a night in some academic building on campus that you kind of all get dressed up and go to. And it's great because those opportunities are coming straight to campus. Another thing that is really great about BC's physical location is that we're so close to the city of Boston that if you want to do an internship during the academic year, you can. So during my junior year, I had no classes on Fridays. And so I thought it was a great opportunity to do an internship during the academic year. So I worked at Morgan Stanley in Boston through a connection with the BC alumni. And I was able to take the train into the city every Friday and kind of get to try out the real world version of what I was learning in class. So that was a great experience. I also then followed up and had my internship between my junior and senior year at Goldman Sachs, and then that turned into a full-time job after graduation. So it's really a great kind of extension of what you learn in the classroom, and BC's physical location really helps with that because you can have those internship experiences even during the academic year.
I'm going to tie in this question about internships with the former question about how this prepared me for life postgraduate and what I'm doing right now. So this is many pieces of advice that will be disseminated throughout the conversation today. But one thing I would say is do not shy away from any internship that might not be necessarily compensated or paid. If you really see something out there that is great, there are numerous resources that would make that possible for students. I know the Career Center offers a fund that you can apply for to help with your housing or locating resources if you are moving to another city. But in my case, while I did not necessarily utilize that offering from the Career Center for compensation. I had the great fortune to work as a volunteer, or rather a docent, I should say, at the Ellis Island Immigration National Museum in New York City. And as I was living at home for the summer back in New York, I was commuting in with my father every day. And working at the museum was a lot of fun because I had a particular research interest as an Italian major, wanted to learn about we call the Italian diaspora, the migration of Italians from the 19th and 20th century from Southern Italy, what we know about Italians sort of today in an American type world. And it was really a lot of fun seeing all of the historical context in there, at the same time juxtaposing that with the more modern new wave of immigration that's going on in the country, a lot of the issues that are being faced today with what does it mean to be a migrant in this nation? What does it mean to sort of blend together in that melting pot metaphor? Or should we be more celebratory of each person's individual identity? So a lot of grappling with some personal things and learning about the differences of peoples and their backgrounds. And as I was continuing through my time after that summer before my junior year, I went abroad to Italy in Parma, and I had the opportunity to continue some of that research there, go through some of the museums. And when I ultimately realized that through my time as an Italian major at BC, I did not want to ultimately pursue graduate level studies in Italian, but as I sort of shifted and learned more about the world of higher education, helping students at a university, I had those great research skills working in a museum, learning to connect with people. And that is just so invaluable working at a graduate level, to be able to communicate with your professors, think clearly about a research topic and idea. And so I'm really grateful that I had those experiences, and they certainly assist me today in my work as a graduate student.
I will loop in the questions about information systems and like GMAT and stuff, whatnot, with this internship question. So I guess to answer that timeline question, it kind of worked out for me in a way that all of those things were kind of staggered. I did my internship with Deloitte since my freshman year, and I was going back. So in that case, I kind of dodged a bullet in the very busy recruiting season in a sense, since I didn't have to go through many other interviews. Although I will tell you a story later on, like one of the interviews. And then I took the GMAT actually my junior year, second semester, because I was going to London for a semester abroad and my visa did not work out. So I was really bummed, and like I already made transition plans for all the student clubs and stuff. So I like had nothing to do, and my professor was like, well, while you're at school, you should still try to take the GMAT because it'd be so much harder once you graduate. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. Which, yeah, I did appreciate myself for doing that early, because it was quite a hassle for anyone to try to take GMAT during the middle of a pandemic when all the testing sites were shutting down and there were no online appointment back then. So in that case, I kind of didn't have to figure out GMAT and transitioning into the professional world at the same time. But I guess it's like a continuous progress, right? It's a process. In terms of information systems, I think it definitely prepared me well for all the technical things in my job. And my job, when it gets technical, it does get really technical, because we are kind of like this translator between the finance people on the business side and the data engineer and data scientists at Facebook. Okay, pretend I didn't say the name, at the client company. And for that, we actually need to almost reperform a lot of the data scientists and data engineers' job to make sure we fully understand the full picture to assess risk. So that does get very technical, because I would say like they are like one of the best people, right, in the industry doing this kind of work. But I think, now I'm not saying like UBC will teach you everything you'll ever need for your job. It's definitely a lot of learning on the job. And I'm very grateful for like continue to learn on the job and getting paid, right? Because you kind of like pay BC to learn this. Whereas like now I get paid to learn this, so I'm happy. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely.
The information system definitely gives you a good foundation. And I think if anything, BC, I think we would all agree, BC teaches you how to learn. And I think that honestly is more important than what you actually learned, like the language and this piece of MySQL code and all of that in your class.
Thank you so much. As you see on the questions here, we have some students here that are going to join the BC community, and they're excited. Tell me a little bit about your own college search. Why did you choose BC? And or some advice in terms of navigating your first year of college. Things you did well that you'd like to share, or maybe some mistakes you made that you're willing to share that you hope others would avoid.
I would say one mistake that I probably made early on was not taking professors at their word when they said that they actually really want you to go to office hours. I kind of thought that you needed to have some pressing issue to go to them, when in reality, they want to get to know you. And it kind of helps your learning experience overall in the class when you have time to connect with them one-on-one or in a small group as opposed to in the classroom. So that's one thing that if I could go back, I would change, because later on in my academic career, I started going to office hours way more frequently. And I got more out of those classes when I started to make more personal connections with the professor. So they're serious when they say they want you to go. And all you have to do is show up during that time period. And it's worth your while.
I would say in terms of the college search and like why I chose BC, this might sound a little cheesy, but I just love that BC was a place where I knew I could like learn and grow a lot. And I know I kind of touched on that a little bit, but like I had so many great opportunities to do so many different things. So, getting really involved in clubs, but also like studying abroad in Ecuador. Like I studied abroad there, spoke Spanish the entire semester. That was definitely tough for me, but like so glad I did it, made great memories. Definitely improved my Spanish, just had that amazing experience. Just like meeting people from all over the world was awesome. Like within my group of friends, I had friends from like Baltimore, from California, from Trinidad, from like Kuwait, from like literally everywhere. And I thought that was just super cool because you all are kind of experiencing this together, but all have different backgrounds. So it's kind of fascinating to see how people have different viewpoints. And another thing about BC that I just like loved, maybe not going into it, I knew that much about it, but like coming out of BC is just like the reflection component of BC. Like I mentioned, like that's really big in a lot of clubs, and For Boston was one of those where you really were pushed to reflect and think about like why you're doing certain things. And I actually find myself now doing like reflecting without even realizing, just like day to day, like is this the work I want to be doing? Am I doing my best job? Like whatever, it just kind of becomes natural. And I just think in my professional development, it's been great to have that. So thanks, BC.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I was really lucky in that I kind of always wanted to go to Boston College as young as like whenever I started to think about the college search, like BC always popped up there for me. And I'm not sure if that was from like my family always loved Boston. So I was just like, oh, Boston's the city. There's going to be a college there. Like there's a Boston College. There's a lot of schools in Boston, as you guys know. So I kind of said that at the beginning. But then once I started really like thinking about what I wanted in a school, Boston College did tick all of those boxes of what I was looking for. So I wanted a campus. And I know it's like virtual right now and it's really, really hard to appreciate it. But when I say like there's no more like beautiful campus, I love BC's campus. Like I went a couple weeks ago just to visit the SAP folks, and I started crying walking up the stairs because it was just so beautiful. The flowers were blooming, and you can see in Vinnie's picture, like Gaston was just so beautiful. So it had everything I wanted. Plus, the city of Boston was just at our fingertips. The public transit, our subway system called the T surrounds campus. Everything downtown is like maybe a 15-20 minute Uber ride away. And when you split that with friends, it's really not that expensive. So you have the home like nest feel of a campus with an amazing city at your fingertips. And then some of the other things besides like just geographic location, I really love my faith, and Boston College, we're proud Catholic Jesuit, and that was a great opportunity for me to grow in it, to kind of think critically about my beliefs and why I believe them, and really analyze that. So I feel very much deepened in my faith coming out of Boston College. And academic rigor. I wanted to go to medical school since I was 11, and so I knew I needed to go somewhere that would set me up for it, and that was Boston College. I just knew that the alumni they put out, and I know we answered it in the chat, there is like some statistics on like the national average medical school acceptance rate, and then BC's is almost double that. People coming from Boston College accepted upwards of 80%. Like I just knew that what I was looking for in my college experience Boston College would have, and what I was looking for post grad BC would have. So it just kind of all aligned, and then I got in and I stayed because of the reasons folks were saying, the emphasis on reflection and really making sure you're doing what you're doing because it brings you joy. We ask 3 questions a lot. What brings you joy? What are you good at? And what does the world need you to do? And everything you're doing all the time, think of those questions. If you're not answering those 3, why are you doing it? And we were constantly taught that at BC. And so I think it really helps you not spread yourself too thin. You guys are really ambitious. That's a Boston College student. You want to do everything and say yes to everything and help in every way you can. But sometimes you just get spread too thin as much as you want to help. And so kind of taking that time to self-reflect too. So in every way, Boston College was like the perfect fit for me. I was really lucky.
I really want to go off of that, what Bridget said about the 3 questions. Honestly, I feel that's such a BC thing. And I'm so proud for like having this such a BC mentality about like thinking about those 3 questions. I wanted to come to BC like back then, you know, I was 18 and I was like, ooh, college is about taking that philosophy class. So I was super excited about being able to go to business school, and at the same time, knowing that there is a core curriculum on like a bunch of the non-finance, non-accounting things. And I really, really appreciate myself making that decision. So over time, right, at BC, with the service culture, with the student club I was in, so I did a student consulting club throughout BC, and for one of the fun project, it was a data analytics project with a local food rescue nonprofit, where we try to, we help them to map out their delivery, like coverage, distribution network against the food desert in Massachusetts to see how they're covering the, like the neighborhoods that's really in need. And just those things make me feel that like business can be good, right? Like I can be unapologetic about like it is going to be some like finance capitalist thing, but at the same time, I can truly strive for some social good. And that's also part of my aspiration for my post MBA plan as well. It's like I really believe like just like people can do good with technology, right? People can also do good with business. So I think that's just a very abstract takeaway of my 4 years at BC. Specifically to the core curriculum question though, like I saw there's a question in the chat. It's very funny. My favorite class at BC was actually my theology core. And I didn't grow up in a very religious upbringing. I did stay with a Jewish host family in high school. And clearly I graduated from a Catholic college. So maybe my life is a bit like life of Pi, but if anything, it really taught me perspectives and compassion and like understanding the different values people are coming from, and engaging on that personal, like authentic level, like looking beyond what we are disagreeing or we are challenging each other on the superficial level. And I guess just like me being me, like I actually have a lot of like weird, what my professor would say, like religious question. It may not be question about religion, but like there are questions that are just by nature religious. Like, I don't know if you ever think about, but sometimes I think about, oh, like what's the meaning of my life? I'm sorry, I'm weird. But just like those thoughts and like conversations with friends, with my professor, I think is what make BC experience very unique.
In high school, I completed the International Baccalaureate Diploma program. And if anyone is familiar with it, it's this opportunity to take 6 different classes at a high academic level. And the way that you sort of connect all the different topics and finding those different meanings in what you speak about in one class, you can find in the other. And maybe you continue that into a research project. And so as I was finishing up my high school years, I was really interested by this idea of continuing what I thought was an IB style curriculum via a core curriculum at a university. And I was really captivated by BC's core curriculum because, again, I saw this interest in, I know that I want to major in Italian. I also am cognizant that language as a construct helps us to communicate with all these different subject matters. So I don't think for me, it was important to just study Italian in of itself. You only take Italian classes and get your bachelor's degree at the end of that. It was important to be able to take those classes and connect it to how the fundamentals of science and how Galileo was naming stars, how that has implications for or the names that were given to those stars via Latin, how that turned into Italian language. That's just one example. So that's why I was really interested in a core curriculum, to be able to tie in all those different academic points. And with one of the different core curriculum requirements was taking 2 classes in social sciences. One of them I had the opportunity to take in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. It was a class called Family, School, and Society. We were talking about Yuri Bronfenbrenner's theory of ecological development, which I have now returned learning in my graduate school of education program. So definitely good thing I took notes on that. It definitely came back to visit me. But that one opportunity to take that class in another school at Boston College, at the Lynch School, really opened up this idea that I love not just sort of teaching foreign language, but working within some realm of education. So that led to a second class in the Lynch School, a third class, a teaching practicum when I was abroad, a fourth class, which was a higher education elective really for graduate students that I was able to take. And now here I am doing a master's in higher education program. So just always different opportunities, and the core curriculum gives you lots of different jump off points.
And I think one thing that hopefully has become clear from all these answers is that the core curriculum is not something that you try and just like get out of the way, like these required classes. It's really kind of like the spine running through your education here, and you can branch off of it as you find different interests. Plenty of my friends maybe completely changed their major or added minors after they took a class in the core curriculum. So it just lets you become a really well-rounded person. I think that's incredibly important as you graduate and go out into the world that's changing so quickly. To really have a broad base of knowledge and not just be ultra focused in one area. Of course, you have your academic specialty, but if I was only taking finance classes for the entire time at BC, I don't think I'd be nearly as well prepared as I was to go out into the kind of real world. It's those other classes that really supplement your academic focus and make you just a more well-rounded student and eventually an employee out in the real world.
Thanks to all of you, not only for your great responses, but the way you're monitoring and responding to the Q&A. We really appreciate it. One question that came up a little while ago was just about social life at Boston College, you know, especially given that we don't have Greek life. What was your social experience, you know, freshman year to senior year?
Oh, sorry, Sophie.
No, you go. Okay, I'll pop in first. So social life. I mean, I know we've talked a lot about academics, but we also have a lot of fun. Don't worry. I would say for me personally, I really met some of my best friends freshman year, my freshman hall. So what's really nice about the way our freshman living situation is you have one roommate, but then you live in a hall with like anywhere from like 30 to 50 people ish. It depends based on the building. But I really enjoyed that because I was able to meet like a lot of good friends as they were like next to me or across and etc. And so that was really nice, like right away having that. And you also have RAs on each floor, and they put together great programs where you get to meet other people. Like I think once we had like a dessert night or like a pizza party or like things like that, where it's just a great opportunity to just like chat with people and get to know them, and you're all going through the same experience. So that was like super fun, and those friendships really, at least for me, prevailed all 4 years, and you were able to grow with the people you met day one. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, speaking directly to the fact that we don't have Greek life is a blessing. You don't have exclusive access to a certain group of friends. Often you'll see that it's like, hey, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm getting dinner with my dance team. Oh, tomorrow I'm going out with my church friends. Or you are always doing something different with different groups of people. You're friends with the entire school pretty much. There's big groups. I don't know your screen, but on my screen right here's one of my best friends and roommate from last year, Vinnie. We traveled, we drove to Canada. I took other roommates to Mexico City for spring break. You really do bond in a different way that it's just like, oh, let's get dinner. Yeah, you get dinner on campus, but you'll often see you travel around the world with these roommates. They take you in for Thanksgiving some years. There is so much to do. And again, going back to the location, the fact that we do have our beautiful, green, gorgeous campus, and then we have the city in our backyard. If you just want to stay in on a Friday night, order pizza and watch movies, you can do that. And then Saturday morning, you can wake up, bike into the city, go to Boston Commons, go to a concert, go out for brunch. not so the people, the location, I think it's Boston College is the perfect recipe to develop yourself socially. And it's a fresh start, whether you are, again, from Worcester, Mass, and you're only a few hours away, or you're coming all the way from California or internationally. It's sort of a fresh start where everyone here is coming here for the first year. You're all in the same spot, and you have these 4 years to look forward to develop these friendships. And yeah, I think it's just, again, perfect recipe.
Yeah, and I want to. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I want to jump off to the not having Greek life, because honestly, that was one of my favorite parts about BC. Um, and I'm sure you guys all hear in the news, like Greek life can, for some people, it's wonderful, but also it is a very nerve-wracking and potentially dangerous environment. But at Boston College, we don't have that. And so I know one big thing is like, oh my gosh, how are you going to make friends? And that's where our clubs come in. A lot of us have talked about them a lot, and how you're spread amongst so many different clubs. So all of a sudden your friend network really exponentially grows. Your friends in one club, they're in other clubs too, and they will have other friends. And so it really fosters a culture of, hey, like meet my friends, and oh, like I trust you because you're friends with my friend. And it really does come in, if you do want to pursue that nightlife environment, it really does support like a safety culture. So I really did appreciate that a lot. And another just club in particular that really helped me make friends was the Ultimate Frisbee Club, because I was in high school an athlete, but Boston College is Division I, and I played lacrosse in high school. I wasn't that good at lacrosse, and then coming to BC, our women's lacrosse team at the time was like going to the national championships, and the club lacrosse team was beating like real college teams across the country. So like that was not an option for me. And then I also used to swim, and it was just my time to not do it anymore. And so I was really looking for that, like that was my social scene in high school. How was I going to have that here? And so I joined the club ultimate team, and it was full of other people just like me of, hey, I've never played Frisbee before. I throw it and it like goes the wrong way, catches the wind, but I'm surrounded by people who also don't have their high school sport anymore and want to bridge that gap. And so any club you do, you're choosing to do that club because of a particular reason. And so you're bonded by that interest, wherein some other like social scenes, it's more of like a kind of superficial, it seems like, way of getting them. But this is more like you're choosing to spend your time with these people. So I really do think, even though it may seem like it may take a bit longer to find your friends, it's worth that time because you're finding very like-minded people.
I wanted to jump in and say that in terms of social life, it's also a matter of just understanding what you're comfortable with. And yes, college is a time to sort of grow and develop, but I mean, never find yourself in a situation that you're not, comfortable doing something. I don't think anyone on this call would ever advocate for that. With that said, the dynamic of Boston College in that we have our sort of residential bucolic looking type campus just on the doorstep of a large cosmopolitan city really was a lot of fun for me in sort of determining my social life. I love that there were so many different, especially with the first year housing program, there were so many different programs put on by, like, say, our resident assistants or by all the residents communities. And then as we started to get older, there were still, between sporting events on campus that we could go to. I just felt that there was a really good support from the community, meeting the students within, even the people within the local community of Chestnut Hill and Newton. There were people that were certainly coming through and always visiting the campus. So it always felt like a warm and safe place to be. But I really loved utilizing the city for, social life, and not to necessarily say that I was just Friday nights and Saturday nights only. It could have just been out in the day, go visit the museum. You have access to all these different resources with your student ID. It's made free for all the students in the Boston area. I have a good memory that I say from my freshman year. Like Mark had said during his junior year that he had no classes on Fridays, and so he would do an internship. In my freshman year, in the spring semester, I did not have classes on Tuesdays or Thursdays. So I was highly productive and focused. I would get all of my work done for the rest of the week on Tuesday. And then Thursday, given that there's about 14 or 15 weeks per semester in the semester, I visited a different neighborhood in Boston. So I go to Fenway, then I go to Allston, then I go to Braintree, and then I go to Medford, and then I go to Back Bay. And I would sort of do the initial scout on Thursday. And when I would report back to my first year dorm, I would say to everybody, oh, I visited this place, maybe let's try going out here this week. And if there there isn't something, say, going on campus. And so just utilizing all the different people that are on campus, and there's never a dull moment or opportunity. It's all just a matter of what you want to get involved and jump in with.
I want to add a quick add-on. And I think this part is something I wasn't able to answer while I was in school, is that like, what happens to all the friends after graduation, right? I know this is not the exact question about transitioning from high school into college, but I just really, really want to highlight that like, I am so grateful for all of my friends that I've met at BC, because it was very hard for me to move to a new city without knowing anyone in San Francisco and like work from home majority of the time. And it's just like small things, like we'll talk, or it's just like the most random thing of like, my friend made an origami and like called me, be like, hey, Jenny, I made this. I was like, oh, wow, that's impressive. Or like we figured out ways to play Catan with like my consulting Excel spreadsheet of like totally keeping track of the score and like open for audit. But okay, it's okay, I didn't win, but it was fun. Just like things like that. Really, I think it is really like, I'm really happy and grateful for having that in my life. And also for my friends who moved out to the Bay Area as well, that we kind of like met during freshman year, like everyone said, through clubs and classes, all of that. But because we were in very different majors or in different schools, we kind of like, our path didn't cross that much through the remaining years of us at BC. We were totally reconnecting here. It's kind of like an unofficial reunion almost, where like we've known each other for a long time, but we just haven't really like gotten to like spend more time with each other in the past. And just like a group of us, we did a like 5-hour super intensive hike, and that was a fun time. And I'm like, yo, if like anyone can make this, like, oh, that was such a wow, like we all could not feel our legs afterwards. But hey, like if we could still manage to have a fun time, like hiking that Mission Peak, right? Like it was a really solid group, you can tell. So yeah, I don't know, this is getting me a little bit emotional as well.
Thank you so much, everybody. Vinnie, you really highlighted the difference in schedule transitioning from high school to college, that you have a lot more flexibility in your daily schedule. Not that you're not challenged, I think you've all made that very clear, but you just get more control over your life and your schedule. And I think so many students find that really refreshing. So students out in the audience, rest is coming. So just kind of dovetailing with that last question, what are some of your favorite traditions from BC? When we're able to open this back up, what are you coming back for? And Jenny, you mentioned the marathon earlier. Last year you didn't feel it as much because we were all home and it was just the start of the pandemic, so your thoughts were elsewhere. But we're pretty much back on campus, so a couple of Mondays ago or maybe last Monday, it was pretty surreal not to have the marathon, which is usually on Patriots Day in April. Not to have it taking place was surreal. Favorite traditions?
Yeah, that's my favorite tradition, honestly. I love like spring is so exciting. Like you're gearing towards the end of the year, you're wrapping up, like the weather's getting nice, the campus is beautiful, and then the marathon, which is like insane to think of, like training for running 26 miles and to see like thousands of people of all shapes and sizes doing this incredible feat that I don't think I could ever do. Meanwhile, like 3 miles down the road, the Red Sox are playing at Fenway Park, and then the whole city's just celebrating. And then on top of all that, like the rest of the country doesn't know what it is. Like it's just such a special Boston thing that it's my favorite holiday. And I call it a holiday, but yeah, Marathon Monday is my favorite.
Yeah, kind of staying on the sports trend, I love football. So the football games at BC definitely were always a highlight for me. It's really fun because you are able to like tailgate before the game with your friends. And what's really cool is like there's so many alumni that come back for the football games. I guess that's why I'm extra excited, because that can be me hopefully in this fall or the fall after. But it's really great because it's like so much spirit. Everyone's like super excited. And then the stadium's right on campus. So it's like a 2-minute walk over to the stadium, and then you get to cheer on the Eagles. So it's always a good time, and it's like beautiful fall weather in New England. There's honestly nothing better in my opinion.
I'll echo all of those, but I'm very happy and thankful for CAP, the Campus Activities Board. They are one of the biggest organizations on campus in charge of laying out events for students throughout the whole academic year. We have concerts, we have lobster nights, we have so many events, and one of my favorites is the Easter egg hunt. So again, I get very competitive, but every single year they will hide eggs with candy all over our campus and our green spaces, and they will have like 2 to 3 golden eggs. And if you find those eggs, you can redeem those for laptops, flat screen speakers, cool stuff. And I just look forward to it every single year. You know, I set my alarm, grab my trash bag, and like sweep the entire campus and hopefully find those golden eggs. It's something that it's fun to do with friends. It's a competitive thing. In between classes, you can just go for those eggs, and that is something that I would look forward to every single year, and something that it's one of those like smaller non-traditions, but those little things that make our time special that you look forward to the next year, and obviously echoing those big traditions as well.
I would say my favorite tradition is the Christmas mess that we do, appropriately so, during Christmas time during the Advent season. And the reason I like to highlight it is even though in the Catholic faith, it's the period marked by when people are waiting for Christ the Messiah to be born. And yes, there are people who certainly, like myself, that are very much eager in anticipation for when that day arrives. But I think it's also a time when everybody on campus gets to come together. Just you have, well, knowing Boston, ton of snow, so it always feels like it's, white snow going around everywhere, and just cold, and everyone's bundling together with some hot chocolate or tea. But it's marked by a period in Catholic faith about waiting. And so for those that are waiting for Christ Messiah, yes, that's a period in waiting for the 25th, but also for everyone else on campus, it is a period of waiting. And I don't want to make that sound like it's a period of anxiety, but think about that timing, looking about like December 15th, 16th, maybe you're waiting to finally get finished with one of your final examinations. You're a first year student that's waiting to see, is this the place where I actually belong? Maybe you're waiting for an interview. Maybe you just can't wait to see your pet back home, whatever situation you might be. I think just that period of waiting kind of ties in well with our overall themes about reflection. And it's just a nice theme that everyone can get along regardless of your religious or spiritual background.
Thanks, everyone. I want to be respectful of time, and maybe one more question, but if all of you would like to contribute, please feel free. Any advice? You lived a full college experience with a range of emotions, and I hope that the class of 2020 will always be historic. I hope you're well celebrated every time you come back for reunions. But any advice in terms of navigating college or transitioning to the professional world?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Thank you, Bridget.
I think the biggest thing, and especially like this past year really put it in perspective, is and this goes for life in general, but especially college, like it's so cliche, but it does go really fast. And my friends and I, like, we found ourselves saying senior year, like, okay, just finish your thesis, like after spring break, like all of our big things are due, and we can just have the rest of spring semester to have fun and do all these things. Like we made a bucket list for senior year that we wanted to do, and obviously like we didn't get to do that. And so my biggest piece of advice is to don't always like say, oh, like let me just get through this test, or let me wait for the weekend. Like find the time to fit it in now, because you never know when something's just going to happen. So really take advantage of every day. And as easy as it is to be like, let's just get to the weekend or get to after midterms or get to the break, like don't think like that, because it'll go by really fast.
And I would say, to build off of that, it's really easy, especially maybe towards the end of your freshman year, to kind of get into a pattern and just kind of be doing the same thing and hang out with the same people and do the same clubs. But I think if everyone kind of push themselves to act like they do in the first few weeks of freshman year when you're trying everything, maybe like be realistic and realize that you have time constraints, but just keep pushing yourself to try new things and not just keep hanging out with the same people and going to the same clubs. You know, just because you're a sophomore or a junior or a senior, it doesn't mean that you can't try something new. There's like a student activity fair, usually in the first week of the year. And you can walk through that as a senior and join something brand new. You don't have to be a freshman to join something new. So I think if everyone just kind of acted like they do in that first few months of freshman year when you're kind of running crazy, if you give yourself an opportunity to do that a couple more times during your college experience, I think you might be surprised what you find and what you might be missing out on that could really enrich your college experience and make those 4 years you know, a little bit more special than they would be otherwise.
Can I say 2 things? One is very practical. Like for your sophomore year housing, honestly, College Road is not that bad. And honestly, I think it's so underrated. Like it's good. If anything, I think, you know how like in consulting, right, we say for 3 things, right? The project, the team, and the client. You can't always get all 3. Like at best, you try to get 2 out of the 3. I would say though, like for housing, for me, people is always the number 1 priority. Like at the end of the day, I don't really care that much about the physical building I'm living in. Like to me, it matters more of like the people I'm living in. And honestly, I think friends are worth so much more than just like figuring out like how exactly to get you into the exact building of the exact floor plan you wanted to in the very first place. The other thing is definitely take classes just for fun. And I get it. Like obviously when I was a freshman, sophomore, right? Like I needed to get all those prereq classes so that I can be on track for my major and all that. But at least, you know, like during your senior year, at least like truly just like take classes like just cause. I think those are probably, you will be challenged the most because it's outside your normal like comfort zone, or like the classes you would really enjoy the most. So
Great. First of all, Jenny, agree with you. I lived on Co-Row, loved it. And for those of you students who might not know what Co-Row is, you will learn if you come to VC. But my piece of advice would have to be like, don't stress the little things. I think looking back at my experience, there were too many times where, you know, there was a really big test or like an interview or like all these things, which at the time felt like the end of the world. And I definitely felt like it kind of consumed my mind, my headspace. And I would say like, just try to put things into perspective because like Bridget said, like time goes by really quickly. So if you're always thinking ahead about like, oh, the next internship I need to get, oh, like what am I going to do post-grad? And that's constantly on your mind, which like it inevitably will be to an extent, but just like realizing, okay, it'll all work out, which it does. I think that's really key.
My piece of advice, and I love the word that Sophie used, would be headspace. And I think that is just so important now more than ever, especially as I'm getting sort of a 50,000 foot view of higher education. So not just looking at BC, but all types of college bound students and just all the throws that they're being put into. On top of already what someone already has an assumption about going into college to begin with. And I would say just really getting into a good headspace. There are going to be times that are difficult. We don't sugarcoat that, but that's just going to be, I think, anywhere you go. But what I think makes BC a great place is through those difficulties, they show you that paths can emerge from them. And so if I could give any other piece of advice, I would say one thing is to sort of do a headspace activity like I like to do, where I would say think of 3 things that you're really thankful for that happened in the day, 2 things that you'd maybe like to change moving forward, and then 1 sort of phrase or idea that grounds you in the moment. Because as we've alluded to throughout this conversation today, the time really goes fast. And I feel that even more so in a 1-year master's program where I am right now. So really reflecting on those moments, I think helps you make meaning of what's been going on, and will just lead you on to a happier path.
Well, this has been so enjoyable to listen to. Thank you so much for your time. I don't think you needed a moderator. I thought about just muting my screen because you're doing such a good job transitioning and also dealing with the Q&A questions. I know our audience found it valuable, but just Jaime, Jenny, Bridget, Sophie, Mark, Vinnie, I think we hope that the students on the list are proud to say that they went to their particular high school for the rest of their lives. Sadly, I don't think that's always the case. I think given the quality of the students in this meeting, I think they're going to have that opportunity with college. And we're just so glad that we were your college choices and that you care enough about BC to give us your time. We miss you. You're always welcome back. We hope to see you now that hopefully things will be opening up pretty nicely in the fall. But can't thank you enough for your time and your insight. And best wishes with everything. To the audience members, the students and loved ones, you have a few more days here, right? Let us know if we can answer any questions. We have some virtual programming here to close out the month. And thanks for the serious consideration you're giving Boston College to be your choice. Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon and evening. Take care.